Hi everyone, here's some of what's heading your way tonight. Your news at 9.
President Trump acknowledged his presidency is coming to an end. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington as there are growing calls for impeachment or removal from office following the riots at the Capitol.
Plus, going to hear from an area resident who was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Going to also hear from some area Democrats. Also, the remains of a soldier killed in the attack of Pearl Harbor are coming home to southeast Kansas. Doug Heddy is weather tonight. Jacob Leonard has sports. This is KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. New developments surrounding the security breach of the U.S. Capitol. Federal authorities are actively tracking down the rioters, and they could face up to 10 years in prison. Meanwhile, the political fallout over the president's behavior is now a major point of discussion among lawmakers as to whether the president should be removed from office. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard has the latest now from Washington.
As the country continues to process what happened inside and around the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, President Trump in a video Thursday night acknowledged his fight to contest the election is over.
A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th.
Posted to social media, President Trump admitted his presidential term is coming to an end and condemned the violence on Wednesday.
To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has broken with the president, saying the Trump administration's accomplishments have been tarnished by the riots.
It will be a major part of his presidency. It was a self-inflicted wound.
A number of White House officials have resigned, including Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. Democrats, including some Republicans, are calling for President Trump's removal from office, either by the 25th Amendment or impeachment.
If the vice president and the cabinet refuse to stand up, Congress should reconvene to impeach the president.
5 House committee chairs are calling for a full investigation into how pro-Trump protesters made it into the Capitol and vandalized so much federal property.
They didn't arrest them. It was as if they were on a Capitol tour.
The U.S. Capitol Police Chief will resign effective January 16th. The union chairman says leadership failed, calling the chaos the greatest breach of the Capitol since the War of 1812. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
A Joplin resident was at the Capitol when the riots broke out yesterday. Abby Covington, who led the recall effort, you may remember, against the Joplin City Council, went to Washington, D.C. when she heard of a protest planned at the Capitol. KOM's Chris Warner has her story, also reaction from the Southwest Missouri Democrats.
What you're looking at is video taken by Joplin resident Abby Covington Wednesday at our nation's Capitol. Covington said she heard a protest of the Electoral College results was planned, and she decided to join a small group going up.
You know, we just said we've got to go to our nation's Capitol and petition our leaders for redress of grievances. You know, let them know, and nobody went with any intentions to cause any trouble or hurt anybody at all.
Covington says she uses the term protest because she says that's what it was when it started, but then things began to change. Krista Stark with the Southwest Missouri Democrats says she's been a part of many protests, and what happened Wednesday was anything but.
They can say a lot of things about how they just intended this to be a protest, but storming the Capitol, tearing down the flag from Nancy Pelosi's office and crumpling it up on her desk is sedition. It's not a protest.
Stark says she doesn't condone what happened Wednesday, nor could she condone even her own party doing something similar. Covington says she doesn't think it's fair how members of the crowd are being portrayed, since the majority of them never entered the Capitol building.
You can see it was just regular people. It was, you know, they're painting us as extremists. They're painting us as white supremacists. It was people of every ethnic background there. We had people of every religion. You know, this was just your normal, average, regular American exercising their right, our right to petition our government.
Stark says she has no problem with the protests. She says it's an important First Amendment right, but she has a problem with Wednesday's Capitol storming.
And I can tell you, I have never seen a protest or participated in a protest that looked like that, nor would I participate in promoting something that many of us feel was intentioned to turn into that in the first place.
I'm Chris Warner for KOAM News.
Covington says she did not enter the Capitol building. She remained outside in the crowd. In the 5 p.m. newscast on our sister station KOAM, we aired a portion of her interview with Covington in which she said the protest might have been infiltrated by people who were trying to make the protesters, quote, look bad. We want to be clear, there is no evidence supporting that claim. Mr. Doug Heddy joining us now with our first look at the forecast. Cold today. Ugh.
Yeah, another cold day. We had all the rain last night and then even mixed with and changed over to snow on the Missouri side. But most of this worked out of here by mid to late morning. But our temperatures, we just couldn't warm up. We had the clouds all day long, 38 for a high. Average high is 44 degrees. We are still socked in with the clouds. We may get a little bit of patchy fog in here a little bit later on tonight, but we are dry. We're going to stay dry tonight as this storm system continues to roll off toward the east. Temperatures, they're cold. Most of us 34, 35 degrees. We'll drop back into the upper 20s later on tonight. Still a lot of clouds tomorrow, but we are going to get some sunshine, which is nice once we get some fog burning off, and then we should warm up into the upper 30s for highs. Of course, we're going to look into the weekend here in just a bit.
Doug, thank you. Have an update now on the number of coronavirus cases in some area counties. In Missouri, Jasper County is at a total of 6,326 cases. Newton County reporting 4,416 cases. McDonald County reports 2,130. Crawford County, Kansas has had 3,648 cases, and over in Ottawa County, Oklahoma, that county is reporting 2,938 cases. State of Oklahoma has entered the next step of phase 2 of its coronavirus vaccine rollout plan. While the state is not including all of the phase 2 groups within this step, there are some additions to who is eligible to get a vaccine. That includes first responders, healthcare workers who don't work in a hospital setting, and adults over the age of 65 or any adults with comorbidities. Officials estimate those groups include 707,000 Oklahomans.
Well, we knew that all of Oklahoma needed the vaccine and they wanted the vaccine, and as quickly as we were able to provide it, they signed up for it and made their appointments, and we were able to get it to them.
Groups in phase 2 who have not become eligible yet include public health support staff and teachers. Roughly 70% of available vaccines are going unused in the country. Some governors are moving to the next phase of their vaccine programs in hopes of accelerating the rollout. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller has more.
The nation's vaccine rollout is picking up speed. New Jersey is now allowing police and fire personnel to get their shots, while Florida and Michigan are moving ahead with inoculating senior citizens. Federal guidelines originally prioritized frontline workers and nursing home residents. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar urging states to vaccinate as many people as possible.
It would be much better to move quickly and end up vaccinating some lower priority people than to let vaccines sit around while states try to micromanage this process.
But some officials are at odds with who to vaccinate and when. In New York, some 600,000 doses remain unused. Governor Andrew Cuomo says the state needs a greater supply for healthcare workers and nursing home residents. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, though, calling on the governor to open up vaccinations for the other first responders and seniors.
Right now, we need to vaccinate all New Yorkers who are vulnerable, all New Yorkers who are high priority.
There is urgency to expand the programs as new infections surge. At least 7 states now reporting a new strain of COVID-19, with Pennsylvania and Texas announcing their first cases today. While in California, firefighters are deploying to hard-hit areas to relieve hospital staff.
By doing so, it's believed that the existing hospital staff will be able to focus more of their attention on COVID-19 specific patients.
A new CDC model projects the country's death toll could top 430,000 by the end of the month. In New York, David Lee Miller, Fox News.
Fort Scott, Kansas sailor killed in the attack at Pearl Harbor is coming home. Fireman 3rd Class William Barnett was 21 years old, stationed aboard the USS West Virginia on that fateful day back in 1941. A torpedo attack killed 106 crewmen, including Barnett. But his remains and the remains of dozens of others were interred as unknowns over at the National Cemetery of the Pacific in Hawaii. Investigators exhumed some remains for analysis recently. Barnett was among those identified. On May 29th of this year, Navy Fireman 3rd Class William Barnett will be buried in his hometown of Fort Scott. KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes us time now to honor another four-state hero. Clarence Swain served in the U.S. Army from 1944 to 1946. A native of Miami, Swain was stationed in Okinawa. We are proud to thank Corporal Clarence Swain. He is tonight's four-state hero. Doug is up next with a complete look at the forecast. A bit later in sports, Webb City hitting the floor for a top 10 matchup against the Nevada Tigers.
Well, it definitely turned out to be kind of a dreary, cold, kind of nasty day for us today. We had the rain yesterday, rain last night, actually switched over to snow, mainly on the Missouri side for about 2 or 3 hours, and it accumulated about a half an inch across a good chunk of the region, especially in southwestern parts of Missouri, and it melted within an hour. So, I mean, it was gone pretty quickly, and then we had some leftover showers this morning. But snow stats, we had a half an inch. So for the season, we're at 4.5 inches of snow. Average in the season is about 12 inches. But you can see that rain and snow, indigo sky early this morning, and then just kind of socked in with the clouds all day. It was cold. Temperatures only warmed into the upper 30s for highs. And again, we're going to see similar numbers over the next couple days because it's going to stay cold. Mainly dry. We're kind of in a calmer part of the pattern. Of course, you can always get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. Most of us are sitting low to mid-30s. 35 Parsons, Miami 36, Anderson at 34. Nevada is sitting at 34, and eventually we'll drop back upper 20s later on tonight. At the airport, it's 34, but it feels like 28 with those northerly winds at 5 to 10. Humidity is at 85%. We could get a little bit of patchy fog later on tonight, but you can see that rain and snow last night across the region, and then just kind of dissipating late this morning into the early afternoon. Most of the showers are gone now. Everything's quickly rotating off toward the east across the Mississippi River Valley and heading away from us. But we still have the clouds on the backside. We're going to have the clouds, mostly cloudy skies tonight, and then once again for us tomorrow. And I do think we'll get some fog building in here. So this system is gone. Let's focus on the west coast. We have this weak little wave out across eastern parts of Wyoming. It's not really going to do much for us. Our next storm system out across the Pacific Northwest, and that one's mainly going to slide south of us. So we look pretty good as we go through the next couple days. Cloudy skies tonight, some fog, upper 20s for overnight lows. We'll get some sunshine tomorrow. It's not going to be a ton, but we will see the sun, which is always nice. 27 to start, 34 by noon. High temp right around 37 during the afternoon hours. Still cold again tomorrow night, mid-20s. And then finally the weekend is here. I still think we'll see at least partly cloudy skies on Saturday, and temperatures really don't warm up much. We only go into the upper 30s once again. Here's our next storm system. This is on Sunday, but look how it takes a deep dive across the southern parts of the plain. So it mainly stays south of us. We may get a few flurries out of it, but in general, we stay dry. I don't think we have at least a good storm system that's really going to affect us until late next week. Next Thursday, we'll have a stronger storm system that will kick out and give us better chances for rain and also snow. Staying cold over the next few days, upper 30s, 40s return Monday, 50s return Tuesday, 60 by Wednesday. So we do start to warm back up by the middle part of next week.
Doug, there was a time when we first started working here, we could say we were young. I don't know about you, but now I get arthritis when it gets cold.
Yeah, you are getting old, aren't you? Yeah, don't worry about it. I got arthritis in my hands already. But yeah, we were young once.
We were.
A long time ago.
Them were the days, right?
Uh-huh.
We'll catch you in a little bit. Thanks so much, man. All right, coming up, we heard a little bit about this earlier. Calls for President Trump's removal after yesterday's riot.
The transportation secretary becomes the latest administration official to resign in the wake of the riots on Capitol Hill yesterday. I'm John Roberts at the White House. I'll have that story coming up.
There is still a heavy security presence at the U.S. Capitol after yesterday's rioting. Inside the building, there is talk of removing the president either by impeachment and conviction or the invoking of the 25th Amendment. For his part, the president is promising an orderly transition of power after the official certification of the Electoral College results overnight. Fox News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts takes a look.
Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao becoming the highest-ranking administration official to resign over yesterday's Capitol Hill riot. Chao laying the blame at the feet of President Trump in a statement saying, "Yesterday our country experienced a traumatic and entirely avoidable event as supporters of the president stormed the Capitol building following a rally he addressed. As I'm sure is the case with many of you, it has deeply troubled me in a way that I simply cannot set aside." Chao joins a growing list of officials who are stepping down, including the Special Envoy to Northern Ireland, Mick Mulvaney, the First Lady's Chief of Staff, Stephanie Grisham, Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger, Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews, Social Secretary Ricky Niceta, and others. On Capitol Hill today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the incoming Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer threatening that if the remaining cabinet members do not invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from power, they will move to impeach him.
The vice president can invoke the 25th Amendment today, and if the cabinet votes, he's gone. They should do it now.
A very dangerous person who should not continue in office. This is urgent. This is emergency of the highest magnitude.
President Trump finds himself increasingly politically isolated. His recently departed Attorney General issuing a scathing statement, William Barr saying orchestrating a mob to pressure Congress is inexcusable. The president's conduct yesterday was a betrayal of his office and supporters. Even one of his closest allies and frequent golfing partner, Senator Lindsey Graham, pulled the ripcord on their relationship.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. And when it's over, it is over. It is over.
But Graham also dismissing the idea of invoking the 25th Amendment.
I don't support an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment now. If something else happens, all options would be on the table.
His Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts all frozen. President Trump remains silent today, save for a statement tweeted by his digital media director, Dan Scavino, early this morning. The president reacting to the certification of the Electoral College vote, saying, "Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. President Trump was scheduled to speak remotely to the RNC winter meeting in Amelia Island, Florida tonight. Fox News is told that that speech will not happen, but after checking in with some members of the RNC in Florida, Fox News found out that the president still enjoys a large measure of support among the membership. At the White House, John Roberts, Fox News.
Education Secretary Betsy DeVos also resigned tonight. In her resignation letter, she cited yesterday's riot as a, quote, inflection point. Just ahead, a different fallout after yesterday, questions over security.
How is an angry mob of what appear to be pro-Trump supporters able to breach security at the United States Capitol? That's one of the biggest questions after chaos at the Capitol Wednesday. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. I'll have the latest coming up.
The chaos on Capitol Hill yesterday leaving many asking why law enforcement in the nation's capital was not prepared. Fox News Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel now on the latest on the security response from D.C.
The violence at the United States Capitol Wednesday by a mob of what appear to be Trump supporters is prompting urgent questions about the massive breach of security. Many are asking why law enforcement wasn't better prepared.
I think that a more robust presence on the grounds of the Capitol would have prevented people from getting into the building.
Capitol Police, with a force of more than 2,000 officers, were unable to stop the out-of-control crowds from breaching the building. The department's chief issuing a statement saying, quote, the USCP had a robust plan established to address anticipated First Amendment activities, but make no mistake, these mass riots were not First Amendment activities, they were criminal riotous behavior. The Metropolitan Police Department stepping in to assist Capitol Police, also taking heat for the number of arrests described as low. The chief explaining his officers were focused on taking control of the situation.
Then and only then are we able to safely make arrests. Because as you begin to make arrests, now we get into additional use of forces, additional injuries of officers.
Meanwhile, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer saying Thursday he plans on firing Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Mike Stenger once Democrats take control of the Senate later this month.
It was appalling how ill-prepared the Congress was for these attacks. He must go. He did a terrible, terrible job.
Some 6,000 National Guard troops are now stationed in the nation's capital and will remain through President-elect Biden's inauguration. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Always pretty neat when we make a new discovery, right? So coming up, the largest canyon in our solar system. This Arizona's Grand Canyon may have met its match, and it's not even on this planet. NASA released that. A photo of a canyon on Mars, the largest canyon in our solar system. It stretches more than 2,500 miles across the Martian equator and is 7 miles deep. Now, to put that in perspective, according to NASA, if on Earth, this valley would span from New York City to San Francisco. Scientists at the University of Arizona took the picture with a special camera called HiRISE, H-I-R-I-S-E, the most powerful camera ever sent to another planet. How cool is that? You know, both the camera and the canyon. Awesome stuff. All right, 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming away. You're going to learn about a certain type of antibody therapy now available from Freeman Health System meant to further combat COVID-19. Plus, going to hear about another store's plans to leave North Park Mall in Joplin. Joplin's Freeman Hospital is using a special kind of antibody therapy to help COVID-19 patients, some of them anyway. It was recently granted emergency use authorization by the FDA. A couple from Anderson, Missouri says the treatment helped them get back on their feet. KOM's Mike Mahoney has this story.
Jeff and Alicia Brady are an Anderson, Missouri couple who are feeling a lot better after being treated by Joplin's Freeman Hospital for COVID-19.
The turnaround was pretty quick. The next day, we were both feeling better, and we've been feeling every bit better every day since.
The Bradys are crediting their rapid recovery to Freeman staff and a new treatment recently granted emergency use authorization by the FDA called bamlanivimab monoclonal antibody treatment. According to the FDA, the treatment is for COVID-positive patients at risk of progressing to severe symptoms or hospitalization.
I feel better every day, and it seemed like it worked pretty fast. I was having a lot of headaches and stomach cramping and backache, and those pretty much have gone away.
President Trump received a similar antibody treatment when he was infected with the coronavirus, but with the procedure still being studied, it's not quite as well known as other treatments. But the Bradys believe bamlanivimab is the real deal, so they're trying to get the word out.
We weren't even aware of the option. I think there are many people out there that aren't aware that it even is a treatment option right now.
We thought if we could save somebody's life by posting it, we wanted them to know about it.
In Joplin, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
Freeman staff is hopeful this treatment will reduce emergency room visits among COVID-19 patients. Well, Macy's is going to close its store at Joplin's North Park Mall. The company says closure is part of strategy announced earlier last year. Macy's says its regular non-seasonal employees who cannot be transferred to other nearby Macy's stores are going to be eligible for severance. The store, which has been at North Park Mall for 33 years, intends to have a clearance sale beginning this month. Okay, take note, this month. It's going to run for about 8 to 12 weeks. The Newton County, Missouri Sheriff's Office is using a local business for new custom patrol rifles. The Black Rain Ordnance is Neosho helps the Sheriff's Office get 31 of those rifles. The business also helps train Sheriff's Office employees with the new rifles. Sheriff Chris Jennings says keeping business local is important to him. President-elect Joe Biden says Merrick Garland will work for the people, not the president, as Attorney General. Biden introducing the former Supreme Court nominee today. He also took time to call up President Trump and his supporters over yesterday's Capitol rioting. Fox News correspondent Peter Ducey is in Wilmington, Delaware tonight with more.
Joe Biden is known to say the words of a president matter.
Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists.
And he sees a major contradiction between the way authorities treated a mob of Trump supporters intent on breaching the Capitol and the way authorities prepared for a different group of protesters this summer.
No one can tell me that if had been a group of Black Lives Matter protesting yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very, very differently than the mob of thugs that stormed the Capitol.
And he thinks he knows who is to blame: President Trump.
Inciting a mob to attack the Capitol, to threaten elected representatives of the people of this nation, and even the vice president, to stop the Congress from ratifying the will of the American people.
Many charged with storming the Capitol will be prosecuted by the Biden DOJ.
I want to be clear to those who lead this department who you will serve. You won't work for me. Your loyalty is not to me, it's to the law.
Biden's pick to be Attorney General is Merrick Garland, the same Merrick Garland who was once Obama's nominee to the Supreme Court.
Judge Garland has often referred to his work on the Oklahoma City case as, and I quote, "the most important thing I have ever done in my life."
Even though most prominent Democratic leaders are pushing for President Trump's immediate removal, Biden is not ready to take a side.
I know you desperately want to ask about everything from the 25th Amendment on, but I'm not going to speak to that today. I want this to be the issue that we focus on because I think it's so important.
So Biden didn't want to take a position on removing Trump, but a spokesman just did, telling us that the president-elect would prefer for Pence, the cabinet, and the Congress to act as they see fit. Something else we noticed around Biden's remarks today: security has been beefed up. In Wilmington, Delaware, Peter Ducey, Fox News.
A bit later, international reaction.
America's friends and adversaries around the world are reacting strongly to the violence at the Capitol. I'm Benjamin Hall in London. I've got the details coming up.
Well, it turned out to be another cloudy, cold day for us today. We had the rain actually switched over to snow last night, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it did accumulate about a half an inch across the region, but it melted within about an hour, but it gave us a half an inch of snow. So for the season, we're at 4.5 inches. We've had a half inch of ice. Average snowfall in the season is 12 inches, so we're about a third of the way there. Cloudy skies all day long, which you can see on our Indigo Sky Casino tower cam, and it looks like the clouds are really going to stick around most of the night. We are going to get a little bit of sunshine tomorrow. It's just not going to be a ton. We're still going to have a lot of clouds over the next couple days, but at least we'll get some sun. It's going to stay cold, mainly dry, kind of a calm, boring part of the pattern. You can always get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. It's cold out. Most of us sitting anywhere from 33 to about 35 degrees, and our temperatures eventually will drop back into the upper 20s later on tonight. 34 at the airport, feels like 28. North winds 5 to 10. Pressure is rising. Humidity is at 85%. So due to the moisture on the ground, humidity being high, will most likely get some patchy fog throughout the overnight hours. Look at the rain-snow mix through the morning hours, and then the showers kind of tapered off late morning into the early afternoon. We're dry now, nothing showing up on the radar. This whole storm system is passing by toward the east. In fact, up the Mississippi River Valley, but on the backside, we still have a lot of clouds. So still mostly cloudy skies, and that's what we're going to see again tonight, tomorrow night, and then a little bit more sunshine by the time Saturday rolls around. Couple weak little systems, one across eastern parts of Wyoming, won't affect us. Next one, Pacific Northwest, a little stronger one, mainly is going to pass to our south, but something we want to watch as we get into late Sunday and also on Monday. But again, tonight, if you are going to be outside on the roads, watch out for some patchy fog. Partly to mostly cloudy skies tomorrow. We are going to see some sun, but it's still going to be cold. We'll start at 27, 34 by noon, high temp right around 37 degrees during the afternoon hours. Still a lot of clouds tomorrow night, cold, backing down into the mid-20s. Then as we head into Saturday, a little bit more sunshine, but still cold. High temperatures only into the upper 30s. Here's our next system on Sunday. It mainly dives down across southern Oklahoma, parts of Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if it shifts a little bit farther north. That's what it's supposed to do in the pattern, so I'm going to put in at least a chance for flurries by Sunday night and then into Monday morning. After that, we don't have much going on until Thursday. That's when a stronger storm system will roll in, but also much colder air will work in behind it into next weekend. 37 tomorrow, 39 Saturday, 38 on Sunday, 41 on Monday. 50s return on Tuesday. We go to 60 by Wednesday, then rain chances and turning much colder by next Thursday.
Like you said, chilly for the weekend, but still okay, you know.
Yeah, it's not bad for early January.
No. Doug, thanks as always. All right, coming up in sports, 2 top 10 teams in the state meet at the Comiskey Classic in Joplin, with Webb City hitting the floor against Nevada. Plus, we'll hear from the Pitt State men as they prepare for Saturday's rivalry game in Pittsburgh.
Well, tonight is night 2 of the Comiskey Classic at Joplin High School, and it gives us one of the best games of the week. The Webb City Cardinals hit the floor tonight against Nevada in a battle of 2 top 10 teams. And Nevada, currently ranked 10th in Class 5, Webb City 2 spots ahead at number 8. Off the turnover, Cole Vaden gets it to Nakai Howard for the easy finish. Trenton Hayes, he hit 3 threes tonight, 17 points for him. Webb City out to a 17-6 lead after 1. To the second quarter now, Tigers start making those shots they missed early. Logan Applegate off the dribble, then Logan McNeely, 3 from the other side. Game high 22 for McNeely. Nevada cuts the lead to 5 at half, but Webb City puts it out of reach in the third. Vaden straight to the rim, 9 points, 8 boards for Vaden. Then Nakai Howard finishes on the break. He had 17. Great win for the Cards tonight, 65-55 over Nevada.
They've had our number the last couple of years, so we had a lot of motivation going into this game, and we were just excited to finally finish one off against those guys. I think they've got one of the best programs in Southwest Missouri, and you know, our guys played well. I know they're excited and looking to play one more.
After that one, Joplin aims for a 2-0 start at the Classic against William Chrisman. Hot start offensively for the Eagles. Always Right hits the 3. More from him in a moment. Younger brother All Right gets in on the action here. Steps in and buries it. He had 14. Then Dante Washington all the way to the rack. At that point it's 25-13. Check this out. Doesn't matter how deep, all he needs is a clean look. Always Right beats the first quarter buzzer. Joplin on pace to top 100 after the first quarter. A second quarter, more from Always Right. He finishes with a game high 24. Joplin moves on to the tournament championship, winning this one 78-65. Well, this week is rivalry week for Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern basketball. On Saturday, the Gorillas welcome in the Lions for their first of 2 meetings this season. On the men's side, both teams kind of in the same position right now. Pitt State's 4-4, while Southern is 4-3. The Lions have not played since December 19th, which was a 2-point loss to Missouri Western. Now, although this rivalry won't be as rowdy from a fan standpoint, the Lions are just happy to have a chance to get back on the floor for the first time in a while.
We need to have a good bounce back after losing Missouri Western, and you know, I think our guys will just be happy to get out there and play.
It's disappointing that, you know, the fans, you can't have very many fans, you can't have students obviously aren't around, you know, to create that atmosphere that really helps you on a home court.
Definitely it'll be different this year with less fans. Usually it's pretty good rivalry, and we'll see what type of crowd they got.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
The violence that happened at the Capitol is having a big impact on America's foreign policy and status around the world as leaders express concern about an orderly transition. Fox News correspondent Benjamin Hall has more now from London.
It's something most of us thought we'd never see. An angry mob of pro-Trump protesters assaulting police and storming the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. The incident shaking faith in America's electoral system, long thought to be the most stable in the world. Dozens of leaders are weighing in. Most are condemning the violence and blaming President Trump for sending his supporters to march on the Capitol while repeating unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud.
A fundamental rule of democracy is that after elections, there are winners and losers. Doubts about the outcome were fueled, and that set the atmosphere that made the night's events possible.
And the incident could have a big impact on America's foreign policy. On Thursday, the Chinese government used the violence at the Capitol to justify a crackdown on pro-democracy leaders in Hong Kong. And there are indications Iran might exploit the political division to further enhance its nuclear program.
We saw what calamities President Trump has imposed upon his own country over the past 4 years. He has blemished the dignity and reputation of his country.
But other leaders are focusing on moving forward and working with the Biden administration, saying America will weather the storm and continue being the leader of the free world.
that the democratic foundations of America and the resilience of its people are stronger than any moment of trial.
At least a dozen foreign embassies in Washington issued stay-at-home orders for their citizens as the violence unfolded. Some are still in effect. In London, Benjamin Hall, Fox News.
All right, going to take a break from some of these things and end the night with some Hollywood news. Preview of a new sci-fi thriller. Hilary Swank terrorizes Michael Ealy in the revenge thriller Fatale. Fox's Steve Rappaport has this story.
I'm certain I know you from somewhere.
Oscar winner Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy get entangled in a deadly game of cat and mouse in the psychological thriller Fatale. Ealy plays a successful married sports agent whose perfect life falls apart after a wild one-night stand in Las Vegas with a police detective played by Hilary Swank comes back to haunt him.
This wasn't part of the plan. She's the villain, and that's clear. The question is, why, right? And I think as you begin to watch the movie, you see that, people are broken, and that leads to bad connections, and that leads to bad ties, and that leads to, bad decisions.
You sorry?
Hinting at her character's motives, Swank doesn't see her as a villain, but as someone who is a victim of circumstance.
She's flawed. She made a grave mistake. She worked really hard to fix that mistake and to rectify that wrong. And she wanted a second chance, and she wasn't given that. And she just spiraled out of control.
Ealy says he was drawn to the project by the question it poses. What happens when a person who has it all begins to lose everything they care about?
A lot of this is, I think, very tangible to what a lot of people are going through in real life. I hate to say it, but it's hard to feel fulfilled in this society right now. And there's what is having it all, right? Like, how do you define that?
The film is currently available in theaters and coming to premium video on demand this Friday. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Going to leave you with a video of a litter of 17 Georgian Shepherd puppies. God bless that mother. See you tomorrow.